Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's SANCOLD YPF webinar. I'm your host, Ashley Kutsia, the YPF Chair at SANCOLD. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this technical session. Before we begin, allow me to cover a few housekeeping matters. To minimize background noise, all microphones and cameras have been deactivated for the duration of the presentation. If you wish to ask a question during the discussion session at the end, please raise your hand and I will activate your mic. You are also encouraged to post questions and comments in the chat at any time during the presentation. Please note that the session is being recorded and will be made available sometime next week. This afternoon's topic is regional maximum floods, a crucial subject within flood hydrology and dam safety. Understanding and accurately estimating RMF values forms the foundation of safe dam design, flood routing, and infrastructure planning. With climate variability continuing to influence rainfall extremes, the importance of sound hydrological assessments and regional calibration have never been more important. It is my privilege to introduce Professor du Plessis from the University of Stellenbosch, who will be leading today's session. Prof. du Plessis has more than 38 years of experience in the field of water engineering in South Africa. He joined Stellenbosch University in 2003, where he currently serves as Professor of Hydrology and Environmental Engineering in the Department of Civil Engineering. His areas of specialization include water resources evaluation, flood hydrology, and the impact of climate change on hydrological systems. Prof. also serves as Director for Training and Skills Development on the Executive Committee of the Institute of Municipal Engineers of Southern Africa. He contributes to the SAICI Education and Training Committee and is both a fellow of SAICI and an honorary fellow of IMESA. He has published extensively, contributing to several national best practice guidelines on flood estimation, water reuse and desalination, and continues to support both academic research and institutional development in the water section. It is a privilege to have him with us today to share his insights on regional maximum floods. Thank you, Prof. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for the opportunity. We'll see how things go and whether I can keep you busy for all the full time, but I think we've got a fairly good topic, or a very interesting topic. Let me share my screen and make sure that everyone can see that. Okay. Yes, so there we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to switch off my camera just to sort of save a bit of bandwidth, but I'm still here and I'll keep going. So, for today, in the context of what we would like to achieve, it's almost a turning point for us, and I'll define us just now, in saying that I think it's the last time, and I've done many of these presentations, where I would like to do a presentation starting right at the beginning from where this method comes from. It's important to understand that, because you really needs to understand how we developed over time. But I think at this stage we are at a point in South Africa where we should start implementing this revised regional maximum flood approach. We are so used to, and we've worked so long with the COVAX RMF approach, and we know how long it takes for practice to get used to new developments. I'm part of the National Flood Study Program group, a group of academics and practitioners, where we try to look towards all the different methods that's in use at the moment. They are old, There was quite a lot of new developments in the past 10 years, I would say, and we battled to get those out to practice, and we are working on a so-called National Flood Study application tool, which we hope will make it easier for all the practitioners who are using these different methods to access the newest information and in such a way be up to date with all the latest research and what was done. Like all of the flood calculation procedures or methods that we are using, they are all work in progress. We get to a certain point where we decide, okay, well, now we feel confident with it. In the National Flood Study Program, we've made the decision that we will not use or include methods in publications unless it went through a peer-reviewed publication process. But it takes a long time before practitioners start using this, and we've got a huge support with the Department of Water and Sanitation, also part of that National Flood Study Program, with Peter and his team helping us to test all of these methods. The RMF is still in that sort of testing phase, although it's been used for a year or two already behind the scenes by the Department of Water and Sanitation. But today I would like to take you through the latest developments regarding the regional maximum flood, and hopefully you will, as from today, use this updated procedures. So first, just a brief overview of what I intend to do. If there are some of you that's not aware of how does the RMF work, RMF in short, then I would like to introduce you to the concept. Then I will start off with the application of the existing COVAX RMF, just to make you aware of how it's been used. And like I've said in my intro, hopefully it would be the last time we start there, and in the future we will just show you the newest information. Also, the so-called RMF recurrence interval ratios, would like to show you how that's been used up till date. And then get to the point where we've decided it needs to be updated. Why did we get to that point? What method did we use to do this? And I think that's the main focus of today's presentation. It went through a regionalization. We have to develop envelope curves, and then we need to look towards the RMF and the recurrence interval ratios again in terms of the methodology. And lastly, we will look towards the results, where I will just present the final findings thereof. And at the end, give you a bit of an insight, only a slide or two, regarding work that we tried to get done regarding the RMF for Southern Africa, which I think can be very useful, specifically since we are all now working, all the practitioners are working all over the world, but specifically in the African context. So let's start with the intro in terms of the concept. Where does it all comes from? The RMF is a realistic estimate of the maximum expected flood peak. Be very sure that you understand that. It is the maximum that you should expect in that region, and there are various regions that we delineated through regionalization. It is an empirical approach, and it's nothing new. It's a method that was developed and introduced by two Frenchmen, Franco and Rodier. They've done it already here in the late 60s, where they've used 1,200 maximum flood peaks, representing different regions of the world, to test their concept, which we use then still today. Using those maximum flood peaks and the catchments they came from, they developed a family of envelope curves in different hydrological homogeneous regions, and they plot them, these flood peaks, against the corresponding catchment areas. They also then made the observation when they plot these flood peaks against the catchment areas that for catchments larger than typically 100 square kilometers, these regional envelope curves is actually straight lines which convert on a single data point, and that data point represent the surface area, catchment area if you would like to, of the drained land surface area for the total drained land surface area. And it, in terms of the flow, it relates to the mean annual discharge of the earth. I always wonder how someone get to that specific insight. It is quite remarkable that they've come to this conclusion when they start plotting these data points. And they, in that process, derive this very well known in RMF, in the RMF environment, the so-called Franco-Rodier diagram. I would like to highlight that I'll spend some time on this just to explain and make it clear to you. But I would like to highlight specifically a couple of things. On the x-axis, we've got the catchment area and the runoff in cubic meters per second on the y-axis. And in this diagram, we've got three distinct regions. The so-called storm zone or storm region. Then we've got the flood zone or flood region, which are the zone that we are most interested in. And then we've got the transitional zone. And I've mentioned the conversion to a single point. These straight lines, once they've plotted these extreme flood peaks against their catchment areas for the whole world, they convert to this point, which is the total drainage area of the earth against the total mean flow of all the river basins on earth. And this relationship is the basis of the RMFs. But let's go through these a little bit in a little bit more detail. So if I look towards the storm zone first, you will see that these are the data points, the runoff that plot against 1 square kilometer. And Franco and Rodier found that the flood peak, the extreme maximum expected flood in different homogeneous regions, is only be determined at the 1 square kilometer range by the 15-minute rainfall intensity. So immediately there's a bit of a rainfall analysis that's been required if you would like to complete or update the RMF approach. So on the far left scale of this diagram, you can calculate the maximum expected flood for areas of 1 square kilometer by just simply applying Q equals 0.278 multiplied by with the 15-minute rainfall intensity, and that's how you end up in the storm zone with specific data points. If we look towards the flood zone, this is the area where the Franco-Rodier coefficient are being, or formula have been developed from, and the formula is being highlighted there with Q0, the mean annual runoff, A0 being the total drainage area of the earth, and then Q is the flood peak of interest to us. And typically you would like to know, what is this flood peak? That is our regional maximum flood. And that flood peak is associated with an area that you're interested in. And K is the regional factor, or the specific way in which Franco and Rodier define the homogeneous regions, the K values or the K regions, like what COVAX have done for us in South Africa. So this equation relates to these linear lines for different K values. And this is what form the area of most interest for us in the so-called flood zone. Now, the transitional zone, what is the regional maximum flood in the area, catchment areas between 1 square kilometers and a typical value of around 100 square kilometers. That's just simply a smooth transition between the data points for the different homogeneous regions in the flood zone and the actual data point for 1 square kilometer using the 15-minute rainfall intensity. And this is how this curve has been compiled, and the curve and relationship that we are using still today. And the trick of all of this is to define this K regions for the homogeneous areas of our country. Now, for South Africa, COVAX have done most of the work for us. In 1980, he adopted the method for the first time in South Africa, and in 1988 he updated his approach by applying more flood peaks that he observed in Southern Africa and defining different K regions, and in each of these K regions there was an associated K value that can be applied in the Franco-Rodier equation to give us the flood peak. We, of course, as it's been an empirical method, will make it very simple, as I will just show you just now. COVAX used 520 sites, of which 354 were in South Africa, and the rest were in our neighboring countries. And he used those flood peaks between 1894 till 1979 to plot them. And again, he found that they align in homogeneous regions as what Franco-Rodier found previously. There are typical values for people that's doing this research in the rest of Africa, published values. Typically, we'll find in Madagascar a K value of 5.5 to 6. In the Kalahari in Southern Africa, you'll find K values less than 3. On our Highveld, between 4.5 and 5. And these are then the K value defining actually the Franco-Rodier equation in what we refer to as our regional maximum flood approach. So after COVAX have used those different flood peaks that he observed in our country and our neighboring countries, he derived these different set of equations for the flood zone, which is more than 100 square kilometers typically, and for the transitional zone, which is just the link between the flood zone and the 1 square kilometer region, as what I've highlighted earlier. And he defined a couple of regions for us with K values 2.8 till 5.6. This 46.9 was later updated to 50, multiply with effective area with a certain coefficient. And how it works is it relates to this area of application, and you simply do have this formula. The only challenge for us is to decide which formula to use. And that was done by regionalize the similarity in the flood response for maximum flood peaks that we've observed in different regions. And you will, if you work in this field, you will be very aware of the K region map that appear in the road drainage manual on the left here on your screen. And for each of those K regions, there is an associated K value that goes into the Franco-Rodier equation. I found it a little bit confusing because COVAX talk about K regions, but the K region K4 doesn't necessarily have a K value of 4. It does have a K value of 4.6. And the Department of Water and Sanitation also find it a little bit puzzling, and they convert this to a map for our country with the actual K values associated for the different regions. So these are the regionalized regions that was used by COVAX and for us for many years. And once you do have these regionalized K values, the implementation of the RMF method is really straightforward. So COVAX in 1988, in the road drainage manual, it is published these different coefficients. The co-region correlate with a K value, indicate how many flood peaks were used, and then he supply the formula for the transitional and the flood zone area. You've done this for Southern Africa, and as long as you've got that K value from a regionalized figure, which I've just shown to you, the one in the road drainage manual, the one used by the Department of Water and Sanitation, the only thing that you need to know is what is your area of your catchment, and the area will dictate which formula you are going to use. And I'll illustrate this in an example just now to make you at ease with how the method is being implemented. So COVAX also made a couple of comments. He stated that there are two regions in Southern Africa where the actual K value is smaller than the K value of the region which he defined. And he simply done that because there was a lack of data in central Botswana. The K1 value with an equivalent of a K value of 2.8, the K1 region with equivalent K value of 2.8, he stated that you actually will find values smaller than the 2.8. And similar on the west coast of Namibia, it's delineated as region K2 with a K value of 3.4. He's of the opinion it's a little bit smaller, and you can be a little bit less conservative in those areas if you apply the method. You make the point, and it's still very valid today, that the RMF is an upper limit for every region, and the K values can be adjusted downwards if runoff characteristics of your particular catchment in that region is lower than the average of the region. Now, let me immediately state that this is something that needs to be done carefully and only by the experienced users. And he lists a couple of pointers. He said that it usually happens with flat catchments with a wide flat plain. There you can lower it. Very permeable areas, dense bush or plantations, and in if there's a clear decrease in the mean annual rainfall in the downstream direction of the catchments larger than 1,000 square kilometers, in those cases, if you are experienced enough, you can use a K value lower than what's been indicated on our homogeneous maps. But there's a condition: you cannot lower that K value lower than the boundary region that's on the boundary of your area of interest, because that will mean that you are in the wrong region, and there's a problem with that. He also then stated that the K valuate is associated, and ladies and gentlemen, this is really very, very important, with the position of the site where you are, not where your catchment area is, but the specific site that you're interested in, wherever that site is, and the K region or the K valuate associated with the position of that site is what you need to use, not the catchment. He did say that with very large catchments, where your catchment covered two big K regions, the K value might be calculated proportionally. Be very careful. In my latest research, when we update this, you need to be very experienced to do that. I will request you not to do this just simply from the way that we've derived the K values. So let's look at the application. This is the background. This is where it comes from. I'm still going to use the COVAX RMF approach, because this is so well used in practice, just to illustrate the implication. So all you need to know really is your site of interest. And of course, you know that. So just take an example here. We want to know what is the regional maximum flood at our specific data point there. We plot it on the map. I use the Department of Water and Sanitation map, and it plot as 4.6. You know, the K value is 4.6. And now that you've got K equals 4.6, you only need to have the catchment area you're interested in, and that you will have. In our case, we select a catchment area of 310 square kilometers, just to illustrate the point. And that 310 square kilometers will guide you towards the zone in which you fall in terms of the suite of equations that you can use. So we found that 310 falls in the flood zone. I'll illustrate it just now for you. And once you've realized that, identify that, you simply can calculate your flood peak, the regional maximum flood, by using the appropriate equation. So what is the appropriate equation? We are in region 4.6. We know we are in the flood zone. Why? Because our catchment is 310, and in 4.6, 310 falls between the limits of the application range of this equation, which is between 100 and 100,000 square kilometers. And since we know this is our equation that we need to apply. As simple as that. You just read it off from the tables. Back to our example, substitute our area, which we know in the correct equation that we found is in the flood zone for that specific K region. And once you substitute that into the equation, Bob's your uncle, you end up with an RMF of 1060 cubic meters per second in this particular example, as an to illustrate the working thereof. So COVAX also developed ratios, and I'm surprised how many times I've seen this ratios being used. For that, he developed tables that was presented in the road drainage manual, which give us the ratio between the RMF and other return periods. So the only thing that you need to do is you multiply your RMF, which is easy to determine, with those ratios to calculate those flood peaks at different recurrence interval. He compiled these tables for South Africa, Lesotho and Swaziland, as well as Zimbabwe and Namibia. And these are the tables coming from the road drainage manual. This particular one is the one South Africa, Lesotho and Swaziland. This is Namibia and Zimbabwe. And these are the ratios that you can use. If we illustrate just how it works, in this case, let's assume we've got our RMF that's known, and we want to determine the 1 in 100 year flood peak. Then the only thing that we need to do is we are aware of our catchment area. We know it's 300 odd square kilometers, 310, and for that reason we just simply interpolate between 300 and 1,000 square kilometers. What is that ratio for our 310 square kilometers for the 1 in 100 year recurrence interval? Interpolate, you'll find that the K value is 0.653 in this case as an example, and you simply, K is perhaps not a good way of using this factor, because we are also working with K regions and K factors. This is just the ratio, but nevertheless, you multiply that ratio with the RMF, and you end up with a 1 in 100 year flood peak, 693 cubic meters per second. Very easy. I think many people do not realize that this is also an upper limit. This is not your 1 in 100 year flood peak that you can use in a design. It is the conservative and the upper limit in that region derived from the RMF that you should use as a benchmark when you do your analysis to see whether your more trustworthy methods or other alternative methods are not giving you a result higher than that, and that should raise red flags for you. That's the purpose of these ratios. In our neighbors, Dr. Gert Kloete, in a related study where they looked to paleo floods, they looked towards the flood peaks in Namibia, and as a consequence of converting the paleo floods to water levels, they also look into actually updating the RMF for Namibia, which was done in 2014. And these were also published. So we've got similar maps for Namibia, which is very useful for us. All right, so this is the application of the RMF, the theory behind it, straightforward, very easy to use. So why bother? Why not just keep using that? Why the need for an update, which we've started doing in 2021? So there are quite a number of reasons. From the theory or literature, I must say, Pegram and Parak, they've indicated that the RMF is a very robust and a simple method of estimating the maximum flood at a specific site. Very good, they say. But then there was also people like Andre Gergens, Prof. Gergens, who claimed that in 1988 there was significant floods that might have overstepped the RMF as it was developed by COVAX and updated in 1988. And he suggests that we need to look at that. Parak also stated that he doesn't feel comfortable with because the RMF doesn't give us a clear design flood peak, which is of course true. Further, Prof. Gergens stated that statistically speaking, the method used to determine COVAX ratios was really very simple. And he said that you'll have to probably look very closely at these recurrence intervals, and there might be a need to scale them down. Prof. Fanie van Vuuren published work stated that COVAX procedures in 98 should be revised to include all the additional data that we do have available, and to have a relook at these envelope curves. Nortje stated further that the RMF is a little bit dicey in terms of the annual exceedance probability. What is the recurrence interval of the RMF? And that they vary significantly between sites, as stated by him in a later publication. All, of course, are very true. Then Prof. Jeff Smithers stated that the COVAX RMF region should be updated and refined, and he said that one must look at the recurrence interval of the RMF. Verwey, a master student, looked towards the data in 2015, and he said that the way that COVAX regionalized his envelope curves was inconsistent, and for all of these reasons, we thought that maybe we should have another look at the available information, simply just from the point of view that we've got significantly more data. It was time to have a relook given all these comments. Also, SANCOLT, and it's my privilege to speak to your institution and the members thereof. Still, the RMF has been used in dam safety evaluation floods, and recently the Institute of Municipal Engineers of Southern Africa compiled a guideline for best practice for design flood estimations for municipalities. And in that guideline, the authors get to the conclusion that in disaster management and risk assessments, you really need to look towards the RMF and put it through your stormwater system to get a clear indication of what can you expect. Given all of these, it was clear that we need to update this. So what we've done is to first look at what is happening today with the updated data. So we use the RMF as it was updated in 1988 by COVAX, and we use 494 new flood peaks from data that we obtain from the Department of Water and Sanitation data set. And we try to figure out whether there was actually flood peaks that occur after 1988, as what various authors have stated before, see whether they are actually exceeding the defined curves. And to do that, we plot simply those flood peaks, the new flood peaks, against the old COVAX envelope curves and assess what is the situation. And what we found is that indeed there are certain problem or difficult areas. So these are the different K regions as it was applied by COVAX and practitioners after the 1988 update. And what we found when we plot the new data points at quite a number of areas, you can see that new flood peaks in those regions plot either on, even over, on, or very close to those boundaries that was drawn, the envelope curves that was drawn up by COVAX. So based on these, that there are actually areas where the newest flood peaks exceed the regional envelope curves from COVAX, we've decided that there are enough reason that we should update these using the latest and the newest information. And all of these findings have been published in the Journal of South African Institute of Civil Engineers, where we've went through quite a number of evaluations to see how valid these still are. Of course, it was clear for us it needs to be updated, and we start following the procedure as what was derived by COVAX. It is straightforward, nothing difficult. But there are some smaller nuances that we've decided to implement to try and end up with what we consider a more applicable approach. So let's look at the methodology that we've used to update it. The primary objective was, of course, to start off to get our flood and rainfall data that's required for the development or the update of the method. And then we need to regionalize once we've got these flood peaks. Of course, when you've got a flood peak and you've got an area, that particular catchment site, then you can apply those variables into the Franco-Rohde equation. And for each of those sites, you can derive the K value for that particular site. And you can regionalize those K values to see whether the regions changed over time as what was presented by COVAX in 1988. And once you've regionalized those small nuances or differences, we need to determine the corresponding new RMF envelope curves for both the flood and the transitional zone. And of course, we need to find the 15 millimeter rainfall to look towards the storm zone and find that transitional zone equation, which I'll illustrate as we go along. So in terms of the data that which data did we use? We use river flow gauges from the Department of Water and Sanitation, as well as quite a number of dam site data, which was obtained through dam routing and measurements. We need to find the 3 and 7 day 100-year point rainfall data. I'll explain a little bit later why we target for that. And that we obtain from the design rainfall software developed by Smithers to provide this to us. It was simply for regionalization. I'll explain a little bit later on. And then we need the 1-day point rainfall data, and that we obtain from the source from South African Weather Services and the old Lynch data set, which is quite a comprehensive 1-day data set. as our input data. And this we need to determine the flood peak in our storm zone at 1 square kilometer, but a little bit more on that just now. So how does our data look like? In terms of the river and dam data, this is well distributed over South Africa. The average record length was in the order of 51 years. We used 178 dam stations and 360 river flow stations to compile our data set. In terms of our 3 and 7 day rainfall data, we use this because in the regionalization, you need a couple of guiding principles. And Prof. Will Alexander stated that he observed that extreme flood peaks are typically the results of prolonged and widespread extreme rainfall events, such as the 7 day, 1 in 100 year, 7 day rainfall events. And for that purpose, we derived a rainfall isohyet map using the 7 day, 100 year recurrence interval data, which we obtain from the software. So in this data set, our average record length of our rainfall stations was about 69 years, and we've obtained a fairly good set of data. And thirdly, in terms of our data sets, is that 15-minute rainfall data that we require to determine the flood peak at 1 square kilometer, as what I've highlighted right at the beginning. And for that purpose, we use 69 gauging stations from source and 35 from the LIMS data set. And we determine the highest value in each region, 1 day rainfall, and we use the Smithers and Sulzer scaling factors to convert 1 day rainfall to 15-minute rainfall. And in doing that, we then was able to convert the daily rainfall to flood peak for 1 square kilometer in the storm zone. For this data set, we use very good data. The average record length was 114 years. So this was our data sets. In terms of the process in the methodology that we use, just a brief overview on that. So we start off by using all of these flood peaks with their associated catchment area. And with that information at all these different sites, we were able to calculate K value using the Franco-Rodier equation for the S stands for the station. So now we use all of those flood peaks to our disposal. We plot them in GIS, knowing the position, and we plot the station K values as derived from the Franco-Rodier equation. Once we've plotted those station K values, we created station isolines, KS isolines, and produced from those isolines for the whole of South Africa. We produce a regional map that gives us a visual interpretation of where does what K values in terms of the stations occur, and we group them together in regions with more or less similar KS values. We evaluate these KS values against the envelope that we've drawn from these group of KS values against the actual flood peaks that we observed. I'll explain this again a little bit later on, but in this particular case, in our methodology that we followed this time, we were very aware that in our group of river flow and dam data stations, there are different record lengths. And we were not sure whether it's reasonable to put all of this data in one pool. For example, a station with 50 years of data, taking the highest value from that annual maximum series as well as a station with 100 years of data. And for that purpose, we devise a safety factor where we adapt the observed flood peak with a value that take record length and outlier status into consideration. And we convert the observed flood peak to a new flood peak, which we call QS, which include the safety factor. It's important to realize we've used this only for regionalization. After we've altered the Q value, we calculate a new K value using that same equation, and we superimpose these distribution or isolines of KS values with drainage regions, rainfall patterns, vegetation cover, etc. And then in that way, we produce a new regional maximum flood K regional map. We then disregard all these adaptations that we've done in terms of a Q value, which include the safety factor. We disregard them all. We group then the actual values together, check whether they all comply still to the envelope curve and or the actual grouping of data, and then we draw the envelope line 15% above the highest flood peak in that group, and that becomes our boundary K value, which we use to derive our equations from. The 15%, yes, it's arguable, but it was also the value that was used in most of the derivation of the envelope curves by COVAX, and we've decided to put that as a bit of a safety factor into our equations as well. So how does it work in practice? We start off calculating this KS value. So here you've got your annual maximum series or series of a particular station. In this case, if you look, there's log transformation thereof. The highest flood peak was 1271 in this particular case. We take that highest flood peak in our data record from the annual maximum series for all the stations. We list them, and in this case we work with one particular station as an example, and we calculate for that station, the observed flood peak was 1271 as what I've just shown to you. We know what the catchment area is, and for that particular flood peak and area, we can use the Franco-Rodier equation to calculate the actual Franco-Rodier K value. And this is the K values that we start off in all our calculations. Then we apply that safety factor that I explained to you. We take the observed flood peak, we add a safety factor delta Q. That delta Q is a function of the outlier status, also taking the record length and the relationship of the observed flood peak or in the annual, the highest observed flood peak in the annual maximum series against the 25% highest flood peaks in the annual maximum series. That relationship, we take that into consideration to derive factors. I don't want to spend too much time on these. It's simply for regionalization, but nevertheless, we come up with a safety QS if you would like to, and you would say this is a typical abstract from our Excel spreadsheets where we've done all the calculations. The original actual highest observed flood peak was 1271 for this particular station. After our safety factor, it was 1925, and we use that 1925 to recalculate the K value. It used to be 4.2, now it's 4.6, and then we start our regionalization. So we built in a bit of a safety factor just for the purpose of regionalization, not to finalize our end product. So just in a couple of words in terms of summary, the procedure that we follow, we calculate, we use a QS value, which includes a safety factor to calculate a station K value through the Franco-Rodier equation. We regionalize those We do that by drawing isolines for those KS values, plot them in GIS, draw those points with similar KS values, see whether we can group them together, and an envelope curve was then assigned to one such a particular region, and we compare that to our actual values to see that all of them fall underneath this upper boundary line or envelope curve that we've drawn, and this is how we've done our regionalizations. We went through a couple of iterations to do that. I'm not going to repeat this again, but some of the sort of guiding principles that we've used for regionalization has been highlighted here for you. So we superimpose this on our KS isoline. So KS is where we started off our equation from our flat peak, observed flat peak and area, calculating K value through the Franco-Rodier equation, draw isoid lines. That's where we started. And then we superimposed on it various contributing factors. We look towards our drainage regions. We look towards our 1 in 100-year 7-day rainfall, as explained before. We take into consideration in the SDF regions, because they will be defined as homogeneous flood regions. We look towards them as well. We look towards our vegetation map, because that do impact our runoff potential. We look towards our main river systems, and I'll get to those rivers, the reason for that specifically as well a little bit later on. And then we look towards various seasonal rainfall patterns, as well as our neighboring country, Namibia's results, because these, of course, all needs to align appropriately. So we'll use all of these different input parameters to try and get a good as possible regionalization of our K regions. As with COVAX, we identify that within a homogeneous region, after this whole regionalization process, we found that for certain rivers, there are K regions in those main rivers which are not similar to the region in which it was classified or grouped. And that's well known that it can happen. You must just be aware thereof and make sure that you do understand it, and we will provide a list to assist you in that. Because for that particular ridge, there's a different K value that can be applied in the Franco-Rodier equation. And then we evaluate, after we've done this, we evaluate the homogeneity using the coefficient of variation to make sure that we grouped in an appropriate way. So once we've got this grouping done, we need to develop our envelope curves, come up with a formula. So there are two that we need to do. We need to determine the flood zone envelope curve. That is the one that we are most interested in. And then we need to do our transitional curve. But before we can do the transitional curve, we need to understand what is the storm zone value. If we just look at the flood zone envelope curve, now that you've got your groupings in each region for the plotted observed flood peaks, we determine the boundary between the flood zone and the transitional zone. Is it 100 square kilometers, 200 square kilometers? Where does it change this pattern or this linearity? You can only observe that when you plot the data. I'll show you a little bit later on. And then we identify within this grouping the highest plotted observed flood peak, and we draw our linear relationship adhering to the Franco-Rodier equation 15% above this value. This is how we determine our envelope curve formula in the flood zone, exactly the way that COVAX have done it, using the Franco-Rodier principle. To determine the transitional zone, of course, we first need to look at the storm zone. And in the storm zone, we take the one-day maximum point rainfall from those stations that we've selected. We scale them down using the Smithers and Sulzer scaling factors. It's not actual 15 millimeter rainfall data. We don't have adequate data to do that, but we found these to be appropriate, and we convert this 15-minute point rainfall using that simple equation to determine the 1 square kilometer flood peak, and such we do have a point on our storm zone side of our graph. And then, of course, the link between the storm zone and the flood zone envelope curve is just a straight line to get a smooth transition between those two. So during the regionalization discharge in the storm zone, what we've done is we look towards all flow stations where we've experienced extreme flood events, and there we've identified the daily rainfall, the maximum daily rainfall closest to that station, and then we do that conversion that I've explained with the conversion factors. So we were fairly sure that we are working with the highest one-day rainfall in that region to get our highest 15 millimeter for that particular region, converted to a flood peak, and that is how we've done that calculations. Right at the end, when we draw the different envelope curves in the particular storm zone, to avoid them to converging on a single point, we just space them typically through the whole range of K regions, as I will illustrate with a graph just now to you. So what we've got now, we've got a single data point based on the 15 millimeter rainfall, in that context, we start in our storm in our storm zone on our graph by that single data point. Then in the transitional zone, I've explained this, how we draw the 15 millimeter, the 15% envelope line above all the grouped data points. And in the graph, it means that if you plot them, these are all the data points. The blues are the river stations, and the blue, sorry, is the dam stations. The red ones are the river stations, plotting simply the catchment area against the discharge. And due to Franco-Rodier's equation, we know that this is a linear relationship. We've calculated this data point. These are all stations that fall in what we consider as a homogeneous region through the regionalization process. And based on that, we could have drawn our envelope curves, and that line's been drawn 50% higher than the highest value in this particular grouping. And using the Franco-Rodier equation, we can put values to our actual envelope curve, which we then use in our derivation of the appropriate formulas for the different K regions. So, and that is how we've done it, and I'll show the results very soon to you. But there was still the issue of return periods of the RMF. To do that, the methodology that we've approached, we realized, the literature tells us that Kovacs said that the RMF do have a recurrence interval in the order of 1 in 200 years. We were not sure whether this is true. So what we've done, we've taken all our stations' annual maximum series, and we calculate the different recurrence interval flood peaks. And to do that, we first need to make an appropriate selection of the distribution, whether it's general extreme value, Lock-Pearson type 3, or whatever the case might be. We went through that evaluation process using the Cunnane plotting position of the data points, decide on a probability distribution, and based on that probability distribution, we calculate the different flood peaks for the different recurrence interval, and then determine the ratios between those, which I'll illustrate just now. So let's look at the results, ladies and gentlemen, of this methodology that we've applied. So here it is. So what we found is that this is our new RMF map with the different K values being highlighted here. And the first thing that should strike you if you see this for the first time and you are used to the COVAX approach is that we do have in the new approach quite a significant number of additional regions. So this is the 1988 regions, K regions. This is our new method or new map that we've come up with. In our new approach, we use 15 regions. COVAX originally used 10 regions. And the simple reason why we've done, or why we could have done this, is that we've got more data. We found that the new regions is more localized because of our better distribution of our data points. Various boundaries of what was proposed by COVAX in its original application of the method for South Africa correspond with our regions, telling us that we are certainly not have done something wrong in our process, and that they do talk to each other, but it's just improved. And this high correlation and similarities give us quite good confidence of the approach that we used. And in many of these cases, as what I will show just now, the formulas stay the same, but we will be able to provide more smaller K regions, simply because we've got more data. So these are typically the results, how we've approached this, and we've plot for each region, we've plot the data points, make sure that we understand how it works. It all makes sense in our K regions. The regional discharge at the storm zone, what's happening here, increase as the K values increase. So you will see that here it's 10, 20, 15 cubic meters per second. For K equals 4.4, for K equals 4.8, that at 1 square kilometer, it's 10, 20, 30, it's higher, and in 5, it's even higher, 10, 20, 30, almost 40. So it makes sense. The plotting of the data points within that regions seems very following the same tendency. And so we were fairly happy with those visual interpretations thereof. It is, however, important, and this is a big difference, that in the storm zone, for the regionalized 1 square kilometer discharge, in the new RMF envelope curves, these values were significantly lower than those that was used by COVAX for the very small 1 square kilometer catchments. But in all the data that we could put our hands on in terms of actual observed flood peaks, we find that these flood peaks that we found are really significant higher than the observed flood peaks, or COVAX was significantly higher than the observed flood peaks. So we feel confident that COVAX was actually quite high, and the approach that we are using gives us a better indication. I just want to prove this. It's a bit of a busy diagram, but just think of the tail end. This is the 1 square kilometer side of our Franco-Roudier diagram, our flood peaks, our catchment areas. And this is the old COVAX. The solid lines are the old COVAX envelope curves in this transitional zone between the flood, the 1 square kilometer, and wherever the boundary is for the flood zone. So the solid lines are what COVAX used. The dotted lines is the new ones that we've used. And what was interesting for us is that in COVAX case, they indeed converged to a single point here somewhere, which was quite odd. But for us, we've spaced them to make more sense of it. Our actual values fitted our data significantly better, even though it's lower than what COVAX have come up with. If you plot them all, just use the equations, you can see in the old scenario in the transitional zone, this is what happened. Fairly high values in this 1 square kilometer area. We've spaced them to be equally spaced over our range of K regions, giving us a more logic and sensible area. I've mentioned earlier the similarity that we also found that in certain K regions. There was within rivers specific river ridges that expose a different K value. And indeed, in certain areas, and we've listed them in our publication, even though that river ridge in the Sand is not in a 4.6 region, we found that the 4.6 is a more appropriate value to be applied. Similar to what COVAX have done, we will also be able to do that. And then this is our results. And ladies and gentlemen, it's similar to what was presented in the road drainage manual, but in the flood zone, the red values is what we've had with COVAX, and the dark, bold, black values is where we stand at the moment. And in the flood zone, you will see very good similarity here and there. Here we've got 49.9. We come up with 47.6. But here it's 100, there it's 100 to the power of 0.5 to the power of 0.5. Very, very good similarity. Slightly differences in terms of the area of application, simply because we've got more data. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important point I want to make that you must please take note of. If you look towards this presentation, perhaps later on, then these yellow highlighted areas is small deviations due to transfer errors in the actual results that was published in the specific publications of SAICI. There are small variations that we've picked up. This is in the flood zone. If we look towards the transitional zone, there are bigger differences. Again, these small changes, they are really to the second decimal or something like that, that there are changes. That's the only reason I've highlighted them. But we can come up with significantly more K regions, and we come up with the formulas to assist you to do the calculations. Summarized, these are the final values that should replace now the the tables that we are used up until now in the road drainage manuals. These are considered out of date, and these are the newest and applicable as published in the SAICI paper with those small changes that I've just highlighted. If you plot them on a single graph, the Franco-Rodier diagram, if you would like to, they are well spaced, do make sense visually. It's a matter of which stations fall into which region at the time. In terms of the return period, how to deal with that, ladies and gentlemen, getting to the end of the presentation. So what is the return period? So we went through this whole process, look towards the different probabilities, distribution fittings, select them, make an appropriate selection, calculate for different recurrence intervals the actual flood peak, calculate the ratio between the RMF and that flood peak and present those. And the results was, as expected, quite varied over a wide range, but far from the 1 in 200 recurrence interval as what was suggested by COVAX. There was a significant amount. These are the number of stations where we found a recurrence interval of between 200 and 500 for the RMF, but you can see it stretched even to quite big numbers, which needs to be used with care. So what do we say if we look towards all of these? In our publication, we said the best guesstimate that we can do here is use an exceedance probability and use the median value. And for us, we would say that the RMF seems to be in South Africa typically in the order of the 1 in 5,000 year recurrence interval, which are sort of accepted by many of the people that's working in this field in terms of the recurrence interval. So with that being done, if we summarizing all of this, a site location in a given region is characterized by that K region, and you should use that envelope curve and the formula associated with that to calculate your regional maximum flood. The site's location on or about regional boundaries, which can happen, you can consider using the average K value, or where you are really confident with your particular catchment characteristics, you can use the higher of the two values. Calculate the RMF using the identified region with the correct equation for the correct zone by simply substitute the area in that specific equation, as simple as that. And then keep in mind that there are several rivers where you need to be careful. I didn't show you a lot about the ratios, but it's work in progress. We've got some research up and on the go with that. But as it stands at the moment, in terms of the ratios that's been published in the Road Drainage Manual, ladies and gentlemen, please do not use those. They are significantly out. But always remember, we hope that we will come up with a better estimate, because it is useful, but just remember, it is not the design 1 in 200 year flood that you can derive that way, but it's the upper limit as well. The results have been published in a follow-up journal, the SAICI journal, and except for those small yellow market corrections, you should be able to get all of those. So for Southern Africa, we are busy. I'm looking for compiling a map for Southern Africa. It started in 2019 already, where I've tried to get involved people from Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya, Angola, Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. Data remain a significant challenge. And in my second round, which was this year, I've got researchers committed and on the work at Namibia already to update that. At Zambia, Malawi, as well as in Mozambique. So we are looking forward to, within 2 years from now, to perhaps come up with a SADC RMF map. There are published data that we could have collated and that we tried to use. They're still quite sketchy and untested by us, but as we progress, we hope that we would be able to fill in for Mozambique, for Malawi, Zambia, and at least for Namibia, an updated version. I am in doubt if we will get anything from Botswana. It's just, I've tried so hard, but it's just a mission to try and get to that. Ladies and gentlemen, I've taken a lot of time from your time, but yeah, that's it from my side, and you are more than welcome to ask questions in this regard. So thank you very much for that, and with that, then back to Ashley. Ashley?
Yes, thank you, Prof. That was a very informative and thought-provoking presentation. And the clarity of your explanation and depth of experience has really provided value for both practitioners and students. So we really appreciate your time in coming out. So far, we've got 2 people who have written something in the chat. So I'm just going to read them one by one, and you can answer them. Those who have written in the chat, if you would like to have a discussion with Prof, please raise your hand, and then I can activate your mic. Otherwise, let's see. Okay, from Odon, we have, there seems to be a contradiction between RMF being an upper limit, but the PMF-RMF ratio can be larger than 1, up to 4 in some places in RSA, as in the modernized SA design flood practice in the context of dam safety report. So I'm not sure, that sounds like a comment. Prof, if you want to just reply to that.
Yeah, look, I'm. This is on my list in terms of this further research to look towards the PMF. The PMF on its own is quite a challenging concept, and there are different ways in how you can derive those, starting with the probable maximum precipitation, which was recently quite a controversial update in terms of how we should approach that. So what that ratios might be, certainly your PMF shouldn't be higher than the RMF. So that should be a contradiction if that occurs. I'm checking on those now that we've updated the RMF, and hopefully I would be able to give a more informed decision once we've done our second rounds of research regarding the recurrence interval ratios and these relationships between PMF and different recurrence intervals.
All right, thank you. Then David has two questions. We will address them one at a time. His first question is, COVAX also chose his regions on the basis of an incremental peak flood difference, about 20% if I recall. Have the incremental differences in the regions been studied? This affects the delta factor used by SANCOL's flood determination.
If I understand the incremental factor that he refers to, please correct me, but it's in terms of sort of how do you group them together and which K regions do you select? There were some discrepancies in that, some jumps that he's made in that context, but we've done it in 0.2 steps. So we've tried to keep the K specifically in those groupings, 4, 4.2, 4.4, 4.6, etc. So certainly for some of COVAX, that was the sort of guiding principle, not all of them, and we've tried to stick very, how can I put it, as a discipline. We work with 0.2 differences.
All right, David, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. David, I have activated your mic. You just need to unmute yourself if you wanted to complete that comment.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's a two-step process. I need to do the unmute too. Thank you. Prof, thank you for that. It really relates to how we apply the RMF in the flood determination methodology. If you look at the actual value of the floods predicted on the two subsequent K values, it's around about 20% difference, and that was one of the things that COVAX took into account, and what SANCOL took into account in developing the Delta region. So it's good to know that that's still the same. You haven't deviated from that. But I think with the smaller K values, that 20% might be reduced on the actual flood peak value. And we need to consider that in the SANCOL approach.
Yeah, so I understand. So yeah, we try to keep that 0.2 difference, but the actual difference in the grouping is easy to determine. I don't have that numbers with me. Besides that, we stick to the K in increments of 0.2. Yeah. But certainly I'll look into that and make sure that I come up with an actual value if we, whenever I can give feedback on that. Certainly I will do that.
Thank you. I think I'm happy to assist with that. I think it's very important for how we apply the SANCOL delta value.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. David had a second question in the chat. He's asking, do the specific formula still conform to the Franco-Rodeo formula according to the relevant K value?
Yes, most definitely they do. That's how they've been derived. It is the Franco-Rodeo formula that's been used to derive those envelope equations, if I can put it that way. Most certainly it does. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Louis, if you want to ask your question, I have allowed your mic. You just unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ashley. Cobus, thank you very much for a very interesting, long overdue presentation to us. So I have one comment and one observation. So my comment is, you talked a lot about the drainage manual, and I just want to remind all the people that's listening in and that maybe have listened to my previous webinar that you guys must really go and attend Cobus's and the rest of his presenters flood hydrology course and in Stellenbosch in the beginning. Normally it's the beginning of the year. You were talking about just using the formula, and I were having like cold sweats, because that's part of the problem is people just using formulas in flood hydrology, getting answers and not having an idea what the answer actually means to them. So I would really recommend that you guys sort of attend Prof. du Plessis' course that he normally organizes. But then my question actually to you is, you were talking about the probability distributions. I suppose that might be one of the things. I know you've just shown, well, when you guys were doing it, Dani van der Spy was still busy with his PhD research. And yeah, the distributions that you guys have used to come up with the exceedance probability of the sort of the floods that you guys have used for each station did not really appropriately handle the outlier, if it is an outlier, if I can put it that way. So are you planning to maybe use Dani's new developed methodologies to actually give us a better idea of the exceedance probabilities for the RMF peaks?
Yeah, thank you, Louis. Thank you very much for that comment. First, just to answer your question, you are 100% correct. These are an ongoing process. I've already to have a committed student on a master's level to look towards some improvements in terms of the recurrence interval, these ratios between RMF and PMF, and then specifically, very much specifically so, regarding the distribution that we've used, and we will most definitely use the IPSA, the new improved probability that was developed by Dani van der Spy during his PhD studies, to do that. I've done a first round of analysis with it. There are certain changes in terms of the ratios, but I was still not happy with the ratios as is. But Louis, first to answer your question, yes, we are going to apply it at full scale, the improved probability distribution, and then hopefully it will guide us to improve our ratio estimate. I don't think it will make any difference in terms of the RMF, of course, because that's a different way of deriving it. You don't use the distributions, but certainly for these ratios. Secondly, I would like to just say, yeah, using just a formula, we've talked a lot between you and me, and yes, it is this sort of scary thing that people tend to just look at one of my slides and this is where the formulas are, and then you just plug them in there and then you get an answer. Now for the RMF, if you use it appropriately and for the purpose that it is being developed as an upper limit indication, it's perhaps not the end of the world, but all flood determination methods needs to be looked at beyond the formula. And that's why it's so important that we really need to assess the catchment that we're working in and make sure that we understand the risks associated with it. Yeah, most certainly. And we will, the flood courses that we are presenting both here and at the University of Pretoria, altering all the team members, all the new methods are being explained there. So yes, while I I owe this to Sankolt, and with your input and with the request from Henry John to present it here, I would really like all of you to look towards all the new methods that's available for us when you attend one of these flood workshops. I would lastly also would like to add that we do have a problem in terms of how we deal with this on a continuous basis. And I've said in the introduction, and all comments are very appreciated. At the moment, the National Flood Study Program are looking towards developing this, what we call the NAFSAT, the National Flood Study Application Tool, which we would like to be an online application tool. We've got various, the beta version has been tested, it's working at the moment. We're looking for a bit of funding. I'm trying to secure funding from the Water Research Commission and IMESA. If Sankolt can help, it would be much appreciated. But we try to put all these new methods on online sort of platform with the databases that's been used being housed by Department of Water and Sanitation, Peter Rademeyer and his flood study group. We are very excited about it because what will happen then is, on condition that we keep track of the different versions, it is then very helpful that we actually can change or actually correct problems without you even knowing if it's an online platform, and the results will be correct. Also, very specifically, not the RMF, and with that I'll conclude, there are so many new methods that's been published that we just simply don't use, and we should explore those, and we would like to make it easier with this online platform, which we hope would be a reality in about a year's time from now on. Thank you for that comment, Louis.
All right, Prof. The time is up, but I would like to just address these last two comments or questions, and then we can wrap up. Maybe just answer them as briefly as possible. We have a question from Francois asking if the shape files for the new RMF regions are available anywhere.
Yes, they are. That's the problem, you know, where is this anywhere? It's with me. So if you send me, we hope that we will solve this with the NAFSAT tool, because then we can make them available. It is with the Department of Water and Sanitation, and with me, and whoever sent me an email, I'll send them on. It's not a secret. We want this information to be distributed.
Right. Thank you. Then David had another question. He's asking, RMF is a historically based empirical method. What considerations for climate change? Okay, we're done.
Yeah, you don't want to open the can of worms of climate change now, but RMF is the upper limit. I can give you another 1 hour presentation on what we see with our rainfall. So I would say be at ease at the moment for in terms of the 15% that we've already added to draw the upper limit. Be happy with that. I don't be too much of a problem with that in terms of climate change. I'll leave it there.
Okay. Sorry, David, that's all we have time for today. Okay, thank you so much, Prof. We really appreciate the time and all the effort put into answering the questions and for coming out today. We hope that this discussion will continue as going forward, and thank you for opening up your channels for people to get these shape files. Before we leave, I would just like to highlight a few upcoming opportunities in Sankolt. If you would like to become a member, you can go to our Become a Member section on the website and follow the steps. And there are some CPD points attributed to participation in the Sankolt community. We also have a LinkedIn page where you can go and look at all our upcoming events and whatever is hosted and organized by the YPF. But anyone is welcome to join and follow us on that page. Then we encourage participation in 2 upcoming events: the Sandcold Hydropower course, scheduled for 3 to 4 November at the Zutori offices in Pretoria, and the Sandcold conference taking place 5 to 6 November in Gauteng. Both events provide excellent platform for knowledge exchange, technical advancement, and networking within the dam engineering community. So thank you once again for everyone's participation throughout this year's series. Look out for the recording that will come a bit later. And with that, I conclude the webinar series for 2025, and I will see you all